Time being 7:30, I'm going to call this meeting to order. This is going to be a public hearing regarding, what is it called? Spring Commons. I'll start out by introducing the board. On my far right is Tony Kinahan, James Noyes, Jerry Stetson. I'm Hugh Hurley, the chairman. Donna Carter is our recording secretary. I'll start out by reading the public notice as it appeared in the Enterprise on April 29th and May the 6th. Notice is hereby given pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 41, Section 81K through 81GG, and the rules and regulations governing the subdivision of land. The West Bridgewater Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, May the 15th. Wait a minute, this is the wrong one.
Uh-huh.
I got Wednesday, May 15th.
I don't know. That's probably one on the paper. But it's gotta be another one.
She didn't put it in here either.
I know it went in early because when we had problems with the, Enterprise. We did it early to give people some extra time and then we had to do the rest of them, so. It's just got the same date.
Because we did an addendum, didn't we?
Well, we did because they hadn't sent out all the abutters.
Yeah,
So
we're doing
wasn't
it.
this a continuation?
Tonight,
It was a
yes, so
okay.
that's the notice,
This
that's
is
when
an-
it was supposed to be.
And then we did a continuation, okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you for the clarification. Okay, there'll be a public hearing in the McDonald Brown Conference Room to discuss a definitive subdivision plan submitted by several environmental consultants on behalf of the owner, Jack Peters. The intent of the plan is to create a 5-lot subdivision entitled Spring Commons to be located at 109 Spring Street in the general residence and farming district. There was a mix-up with the abutters. All the abutters were not notified. That's why that date, and it was subsequent, it was opened and continued, so we are okay. As I started to say, this is going to be a public hearing. The proponent will make a presentation to demonstrate to us what they're planning on doing. After we've had a chance to ask them questions and so forth, I will open it up to the public, at which point I'll ask that you introduce yourself. We know some of you, but we don't know all of you, and our recording secretary is busy writing, so she won't even see who's raising the hand. So if you'd just be so kind as to introduce yourself. And there should be a sign-up paper going around too.
Yeah, I think everybody signed it.
Everybody did. Okay. With that being said, I'll turn it over to the engineer who will make a presentation. You know, it might be a little bit better where everybody's, why don't you come over here? Put it over here. That way they'll be able to see a little bit better.
For the record, I'm Chris Vandenberg with Civil Environmental Consultants, representing my client, Jack Peters, for the proposal of a 5-lot subdivision of the property at 109 Spring Street. Little history on the project that I'm aware of. Project was several iterations. I think starting somewhere back in 2014, 2015, with 6 lots. It's ultimately got approved by the planning board, I think in 2018 as a modification, going down to 3 lots. Essentially, that was endorsed by the planning board somewhere in that time frame. The applicant didn't pull his permits at the time, and essentially approval had lapsed. He then seeked out our firm to perform additional tasks on to see what we can come up with. Ultimately, the first task was getting the wetlands redelineated. That was approved by the conservation, I believe, September of 2023. And the wetlands is a little bit expanded, therefore we had to kind of go back to the drawing board and kind of come up with a new reconfigured lots. But generally the site is bounded by Spring Street, Harvest Wood Drive to the north, Commonwealth Ave and Glenmere Street to the south, and then to the east, North Main Street. This is our preliminary lotting plan that we have come up with. Before the wetlands was more of a finger type shape, it has expanded a little bit on either side. And per direction from the conservation agent, we're proposing all work outside 50-foot buffer. By doing that, we are requiring the road to be shifted kind of almost an S shape, go around it with the cul-de-sac at the eastern end of the site, similar to the 6-lot layout back in, I believe, 2015. We have a drainage parcel as you enter into the site on the left, and all the lots to the back, with a common septic system area at the front of the site along Spring Street, because that was the only area that was perkable. Here we have an easement plan, kind of going in tandem with what was done from the previous engineer that conservation is really liking to. We're providing a conservation easement. Essentially, it follows the 50-foot buffer line, and this essentially becomes a no-touch area. And so we're going to be working with a wetland scientist to come up with a buffer mitigation restoration plan for this area. And here's our proposed grading and drainage plan. So you come into the site, you have the common septic area to the right, stormwater infiltration basin up to the left, and a cul-de-sac at the end with 5 lots encompassing the entire project. Stormwater generally flows from the cul-de-sac to a low point about halfway down to the road. There's a high point as you go up from Spring Street, and which then comes back down to a set of catch basins that flow into the stormwater infiltration basin. Our utility plant shows that we're going to be getting electricity and water off Spring Street, common septic system up there, and infrastructure will be, we'll have a pump station at the end of the cul-de-sac area, which will then pump it to the D-box with the common septic system at the front. Each individual lot will have its own septic tank. Here's our grading sheet. Typically, the site is going to slope up from Spring Street about, I think it's about 150, 175 feet in, then slope back down to a low spot. There's, like I said, a set of catch basins that will allow stormwater to flow into the infiltration basin. All the stormwater flows, so the high point from in the middle of the site flows to a set of catch basins at the entrance. So no stormwater flows are flowing into Spring Street uncontrolled. It's all being captured via a set of catch basins at the entrance, then essentially flowing backwards and then off, essentially into the wetlands that are on site and then off site to the south. This is just our sedimentation control plan. Shows how we're going to control stormwater on site with a series of sediment traps at the low spot of the site, providing stockpile areas, erosion control measures. Erosion control we have throughout the whole site, pretty much at the entire 50-foot buffer area. And this was a plan that essentially prepared for conservation hearing, but it kind of shows the layout of where we're proposing the silt fence, the areas of the 100-foot buffer, and the areas of the 50-foot no-touch. So right now, with this proposed project, no work is being proposed within the 50-foot no-touch. Conservation has asked us to look into restoration mitigation measures within the 50-foot no-touch, and that's currently what we're doing right now, coming up with a plan with that. The rest are just standard details that we have. That is the project in a nutshell. Over to the board if you have any questions.
Have, our review engineer came up
Yep.
with it. Have you addressed all of it?
No, we are in the process of reviewing and addressing those. With that, we reviewed it, and it doesn't materially change. I think what they reviewed was, I think, the, still have a 5 lot, but it showed work within the 50-foot no-touch. Based on comments from conservation, we got, they wanted us to work outside the 50-foot, so we ended up making modifications.
Okay.
So we're in the process of addressing, kind of working both angles of working with conservation and working with these peer review comments, so, yep. And then the point of tonight was, yep, we're addressing those and then getting comments and questions from the board.
Okay. The reason I ask is I haven't seen anything back from
Yeah, that was the
I-
anticipation, so like,
I just wanted
Yep.
to bring it on. I know it was some issues. I know one of the things that, in fact, we've been concerned that the last time was around, I think it's Station 4, where you've got the 2-to-1 slope.
Yep.
And have you, and I know he was concerned there, have you come up with anything?
Yeah, I saw one of the comments was providing a guardrail, and as a matter of fact, I saw that even before I saw the comments, like, oh, that's kind of a steep slope, I'm gonna throw a guardrail there. So, yeah, I read through all the comments, they didn't seem that they should be materially changing with this new layout. So, yeah, I looked at them, kind of addressed them in my head, and kind of coming up with a game plan. So then, I do, and I am actually showing a guardrail along that 2-to-1 slope there.
Where are the hydrants?
Hydrants?
I think it's on 600 feet. I'm not that sure.
There's one right in front of lot 5.
Yeah, okay.
I think there was
yeah.
only 2 of
It's under
them.
500.
Yeah, it's under 500, I did see that earlier.
Is it, did you put one at the end?
Yeah, there's one. There is, yeah, it's so small, very hard to see. But there should be one right in front of, I think it shows test pit 3, between lot 4 and lot 3.
Because it's,
Shows a little circle, but there's, yeah, it's definitely within 500 feet. That's one thing I absolutely looked into.
you put the hydrant right in the front of the house on lot number 5.
Yep. That's something that can be certainly moved. I know, I think the spacing right now is like 480 feet, so everything will be moved in
But
tandem.
nobody wants to have they don't want a hydrant or a telephone pole.
That's very
You know,
true.
when you look out, you
That's
want
very
to.
true. Yeah, something that can certainly move.
Should be moved to
So-
the lot line.
Yeah, they should be on the lot line.
Yeah.
And I don't see one down at the end. It looks like you've got a bleeder coming off near the lot line of 4 and 3, kind of zigzagging across to,
So, if
they
you
probably
look
a service. is that-
SMH4, if you look just south of that, there's a little dot that represents the hydrant. That's such a small scale, it's hard to see
Okay,
it.
but is that line that's coming, because is that just a service to get to lot 2?
Are you looking at the one that next to the text that says TP3? Yeah, that's the service.
That's that.
Yep.
Okay.
Where are the hydrants?
What is this?
Oh, that's a water stuff coming to serve this lot.
Okay. It's going to cut across the street like that?
Yeah.
How's it
Right now,
come?
I'm just dead in the water. Dead.
Okay, but that's the same thing. Here too, with, rather than being on the lot line, or putting it at the, hydrant at the end of the
Yep,
lot line,
that's-
whatever, but,
Certainly possible.
I was gonna say, just keep that water line, follow them, have the main go and stop at
Yeah.
lot 2, not having a service go underneath the roadway.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, have it continue up.
And then put the hydrant
yeah,
there,
put
too.
the hydrant there and the service off the main there. That way at least, I mean, a hydrant there too, you can flush that, I mean, if you don't have a hydrant or anything at the end of that run, you're not gonna be able to flush it out, and it's just gonna, eventually that homeowner's not gonna be happy.
There's a few around in town that aren't.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, and they're not happy about it too. You can't blame them, you got a big red bump in front of you.
Where is the hydrants located on Spring Street?
This one almost
Right.
directly opposite.
This is a hydrant?
Yeah.
No.
I think it's one near Harvest.
Yep.
Yeah, it's right across from this road right here.
Oh, yeah, okay, no, yeah,
Right across from the road?
yeah. On the west side of Spring Street.
Is that what that star is? It says benchmark hydrant, okay, type of hydrant.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things I saw here, that it was you're proposing to have it remain a private roadway, and in fact, of course, you got a private sewer system in there, so that'd be there, but you're proposing to have it remain
Yep, and I saw what the
private
comments
roadway in
was.
perpetuity?
Yeah, I heard about that in the conservation meeting before. I know a lot of abutters, had other issues with that, and that's totally fine. We're proposing it as such, and I figured, well, that's how it's gonna remain as such. I've never been involved where years later it then gets turned into a public right of way. The whole intention is, yes, it's gonna be remain private in perpetuity.
We try to accept all the roads, because people coming in there are going to be paying a lot of taxes. They're not going to get a tax break because they're on a private road. And so it should be a public road. The school bus won't go in with private road. They'll stop it at the end. So if you have kids, this one isn't that long, so it isn't a problem. But if it's a longer one, the kids have to walk halfway to school just to get to the bus. And also, the state gives us credit for the amount of roadway we have. So, but to have a private way, eventually, it becomes a problem, because everybody, they don't want to have to maintain their road when nobody else in town is doing it.
Well, they'll have to have a homeowners association for the septic system.
Yeah, they're going to need that anyways, which is fine, because you're choosing not to do individual
Yep.
septic systems, which is the norm in the town, to having a community one, and it's other community ones, and they work. That's a Board of Health issue, so
Yep.
we don't have any problem with it. And so think that over. We want to know one way. We want to
Yep.
know one way.
I think that was a comment that the peer review had, like you guys.
It was. I think it was in a couple. In fact, I think it was in a couple. Your couple.
And then I saw one of the peer review comments was like, suggesting maybe, you guys putting forth like a motion to remain as a private road.
No, that was a comment made by a member of the Concom at the meeting you were at.
Okay.
He made the comment about it being a private way. One of the members.
Other people issued that, and I was unaware.
And
that
it's not
years
his,
later.
and it wasn't his decision, so.
Anybody else got any questions here? Okay.
Well, getting back to that, because I know this came up recently too, and I know the review letter had suggested that wood guardrails were fine, but I'm opposed to that. If it becomes a public way, it needs to, wood guardrails aren't crash test worthy, so if somebody ever crashes into it, if it's a town way, then the town's liable. So the guardrails should all be steel, TL type 2 level type of guardrails, all of the end treatments and everything else. So, and I know, we've suggested putting a note on the plan that all guardrails shall be installed by a MassDOT qualified contractor. They have a list of it, but so it's not somebody who's fly by night. They've done it before, so they'll know what ends to put in, what type of guardrails and whatnot. So. Yeah, so if it's going to be a public way, then it needs to.
So this is basically not out a public way, and I don't know what prevents it from never becoming one, or says, I mean, if we're proposing as private, I don't know what prevents anyone from years later, like, no, it's actually.
Well, it's gonna have to be built to be accepted.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that's what Jimmy's trying to
yeah.
say. If you're gonna build it, you're gonna build it with guardrails so it can be accepted.
And if I just jump on that same theme, put the guardrails back from the sidewalk so they can be plowed.
Yeah.
Because we have a very good DPW, and they got very good equipment, but they can't move the snow if it's a guardrail right there. So give them, set it back and, don't put it right at the back of your sidewalk.
Yep.
Set it back so that they can get in there and get through there.
What's your sidewalk width gonna be?
I believe it's 5, what we have.
Okay. I was good.
The other comments I had on, and I know, again, Pat had brought it up in peer review, that at the end, so at the sidewalk at the end, you can't just stop it at a
Yep.
driveway. You actually have to have a separate wheelchair ramp.
Yep.
Separate from the driveway. But on the Spring Street side too, I think there should be a cross in there because you got the sidewalks on the other side of the street.
Yep.
So there's no way, somebody in a wheelchair who's coming down Spring Street, coming down this road will get off there. There's no way to go across. So there should be a wheelchair ramp on the opposite side of Spring Street. So it allows them to get onto the sidewalk there.
Yeah, right, yeah, there's a sidewalk, but it's just a curb at this point.
Yeah,
So-
right, yeah. So, yeah, ADA compliant wheelchair ramp will need to be placed there.
You should locate the house and driveway. I know I'm not sure just where it is over there, but just to show that it is ruined.
I think it's further up.
Is the house further up?
Yeah, it's more up on opposite the end of Harvestwood or just
Okay. So
south of it.
So it's just woods there, okay.
Go
I
ahead.
walked that sidewalk for 6 years, I know it.
All of high school.
Uh-huh. Uphill both ways.
Yeah, me too. Okay.
I have a question on the soil. There's been a lot of discussion over the years of material brought in and material going out, that before any construction's done, where the road layout's gonna be, that materials be sampled and brought to us, and that they're gonna be required on the certified compaction of the roadway before pavement.
Unsuitable material will have to be removed in the area of the roadway.
Yep.
And only suitable brought in.
Is that a condition that would be put forth?
It's one of our rules and regulations.
It's just good engineering practice. It's,
The soil sample is under our subdivision regulations 3.3.4. And the certified compaction is under our regulations 4.2.6.5. Nope, I wrote it down. I do my homework.
On lot 1, you're showing a fire alarm box. Have you spoken to the fire chief?
No.
Because they're not using fire alarm boxes anymore.
Another one is that we were given information the taxes hadn't been paid, that there was a tax balance,
Okay.
or we need certification that
Yeah.
taxes are paid as per town bylaw.
Before this can be approved, taxes have to be brought up together. But I'd also suggest, speaking to the fire chief, showing him what's going on. He gets a copy of the plans, but go talk to him, make sure that he's happy with it, because it's better to get it figured out now than when you start construction. Or he won't sign off for the first house to be sold because he isn't satisfied. And he's a reasonable man, but it's just a good idea to see it, and seeing that you're showing a fire alarm box. How long, they haven't been using them for what, 15 years? maybe?
I've just recently seen them taken out in a couple of places where they were required, now they're not there.
Yeah, so then It's a,
Though the city of Boston found out last week when 9/11 didn't work, that having the fire alarm boxes helped because they're there.
that's a chief's prerogative.
Also, while you're talking to the fire chief, I believe all new construction requires sprinkler systems. So you need to talk to him, so whoever your contractors are, know in advance. And I know it's not in our regulation, but I believe I would like to at least discuss the issue of the fencing of abutters properties. Conservation has made a determination that there's wetlands involved there, but I believe fencing should be done on the backs of all these other properties on Harvest. And the last one I got is the common septic system. Has that been brought to the Board of Health?
Yep.
With the upgrade and change in the wetlands delineation, did anything change?
No.
Okay. Okay.
You did get peer review comments back from them, addressing those as such. Again, nothing materially changing on that. We're also working on peer review comments on that as well. I like the idea of the fencing, I just don't know how conservation would feel about, work. So it's kind of their jurisdiction too.
Well, I know that it was asked, that it was before them to put some fencing up, and they, by an abutter, and conservation said they couldn't because it involved getting into wetlands. But if not fencing, put water growable trees up, a buffer of something that grows in wetlands. Or don't take down any tree, anything that is existing. I mean, people should have the right to have a buffer.
Maybe you can work that in what you said you had a wetland scientist
Yep.
looking at the plantings. Maybe you could incorporate something.
And it'll be plantings that aren't gonna take 25 years to grow something that's gonna be put up and exist.
Yeah, that will keep the top through.
Yes.
This was on the 88 vertical data.
I believe NAV.
Yeah, well, I saw something, one of the waivers with
Yeah.
29 to 88, which I think last time around, we said, yeah, that makes sense, because the FEMA flood mapping is on 88.
Yep.
Is there a FEMA elevation for that, for the 100-year floodplain? Or is that just taken from their maps? The only reason I'm asking that is because it just goes over several different contours, so I mean, 100-year floodplain would be consistent with some elevation.
Yeah, it's just listed as Zone A. I don't think it has an elevation associated with it last I checked. I believe it did.
Yeah. Yeah, because I know their maps are really approximate, and actually somebody on Harvestwood had to do a cloner because of the fact that, 100-year floodplain went through their house when, it was several feet down, but they still had to do a plan revision on it. I was just, if there is a certain elevation, maybe show that as a if the FEMA flood elevation's like 62, maybe at least note that somewhere, that's the FEMA elevation is 62.
Yep.
But yeah, I know how you got those on the SRX at least.
to the public?
I got nothing else. Yeah.
Okay, anybody in the public, please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Ellen Jelly. I live at 36 Harvestwood. Can you go to this, I think it's the second or the third page? I want to see where the houses are located, where my house is, because I have a fair amount of wetland behind my house.
Yeah, so you're right here.
Okay, so I have a lot of wetland back there, and this past winter, it went straight into his property, pretty far back. I took pictures of it.
Yep.
And my concern is that with the wetland behind my house, it's gonna rise that much more, and the water table will come up that much more from my house.
So, I mean, the way it's been designed, that's the whole point of the infiltration basin, or for stormwater mitigation. And the way we have a stormwater report that shows, essentially the way, what we have here is stormwater flowing to this wetland area, stormwater flowing to this wetland area. As part of the stormwater management standards for Massachusetts, you have to provide, you have X amount of potentially cubic feet or rate or volume going to this area of wetland, X amount of square feet, or volume, I should say, going to this pocket of wetland, and that was analyzed. So with this layout, the way we have it shown, with the grading we have it shown, and the assumptions that we made, that there is less runoff going to this this area of wetland and this area of wetland, and that's what our stormwater report shows. In theory, it's not going to change the water table. It says that there's going to be less runoff part of this development going to these two areas of wetlands, and as we said, these are our design plans, and that's what it shows. But we don't look at what it does to the groundwater table. I can't speak to that.
Well, and that's my big concern, is the groundwater table will go up. And that will affect, it could affect my basement, because that house is built right behind my house. And like I said, that water has gone directly into his property. And where the rocks are behind my house and his property, they came right up to there. So that's just a real concern of mine.
Did you bring that up at the conservation hearing?
We didn't go to.
You can go right to conservation here now.
It was brought up, but they were deferring to wait to hear back from you. So, yeah, we would get to all,
Kicking
everything.
the can down the road, okay. But that's one of the reasons we have a consulting engineer review all of this, and it's some issues that he's going through, and he'll be made aware of it and look into it. In fact, it's the same engineer reviews it for the Conservation Commission too, and it's has worked out very well. He's a very qualified engineer, and he doesn't do any work in town. This is all he does is review stuff, so there's never a conflict of interest. But this will be brought to his attention, and we'll have him review it too.
Because the water and, I'm Davis Jelly, I also live at 36 Harvestwood. I mean, the water behind your house almost looked like a lake or a pond this spring and during the winter. I mean, there was that much water. So our main concern is that the water table gets affected by the grading of that particular lot or that particular whole area. Because we don't know how that water flows or if it flows. It's like standing water. Sometimes it goes up, sometimes it goes down, but we have no idea why. When it rains, obviously it rises significantly, but we don't know where it goes and how it drains. So, I mean, that's our main concern is the water,
Okay.
the water
Very well.
behind our house.
We'll bring that to his attention.
Appreciate that. And one other quick question. The house that is currently designed on that particular lot, what is the distance from the back of the structure to the back of the property?
You're probably looking at about 80, 90, probably about 100 or so feet. Right now, I mean, like, with this approved wetland line, they have a 50-foot no touch right off the bat.
Right.
And then, so the 50-foot no touch is essentially the limit of work for this whole project and future construction on these lots. So to have an adequate backyard, you're probably looking at maybe at least 15 feet here. So you're looking at 65 minimum. Just looking at the scale, you're looking at about probably at least 80 feet from the rear lot line, I believe.
I have a couple of questions. My name is Switch Rizzo. I live in 20 Harvestwood Drive, probably a little further down. First, are there going to be any street lightings, any lightings on the street there?
I was proposing just simple driveway lighting.
That's a requirement of the board. The town no longer puts, because of the cost of maintenance of streetlights and the maintenance of the poles, that we require that every house lot 10 feet off the street have a permanent driveway light that cannot be turned off with a switch. It has a photoelectric. All our subdivisions being built in town are done that way now, and it actually give a better lighting to the streets than streetlights, because you get a streetlight on one pole, and then 400 feet there's another. Might be another one, so but it lights up the streets. Any of the new subdivisions, Pearl Road, up in that, off of Walnut Street and stuff, see all the streets, the new ones that are being in, all have streetlights put at the end of each driveway.
Right. And going back to the water, in my backyard, the stream comes out maybe about 50 yards from my yard. So Mother Nature calls out torrential rain. I don't care what it is. I get flooded all the time. My question is, when it goes down in the middle to the cul-de-sac, does it slope down?
Down the middle, like the roadway is?
Yes,
So this is the high point here, so everything.
that's the high point.
Yeah, so everything's sloping to here, so essentially, might be able to go see this. Stormwater will flow right to there, and then essentially, yeah, we go to there, into here, then
And where
outlet,
does that water go?
yeah, outlet here, to this side, and to this area on that side.
Okay.
It only flows to those points in the impervious material, though, not in any of the non-impervious material. It would only flow to those points
Yep,
on the impervious materials. Any of the surrounding materials would be impacted. It would not flow down because your elevations are grading down towards the wetlands.
yes.
So, just for clarity, for his sake, the water will flow out off
Right,
of the
right.
street, not directly. It will only impact the impervious areas that are paved where it will flow to that location.
Yeah, trying to.
Otherwise, it will be flowing towards the wetlands and property lines.
Gotcha.
Essentially, most of these lots are, the whole road is generally built up in fill. Most of these are going to be walkout basements. If you've been through any development, these are very much higher, and then stormwater flows will run off to the side of the houses in the back, and that's the way the topography generally slopes now. So all the impervious area from the roadway essentially runs outlets, to this culvert right here that discharges to this wetland on this side.
Because I've seen Harvestwood when it's really torrential downpour, really comes down and the drainage get clogged and the street actually gets really impacted with a lot of water. And the cul-de-sac, you're building it up.
Yep.
So that means that if it's a flat area at this point, you're building them out. The water that's back here has got to go somewhere, or it's going to be in a pool, more so like in a pool area, and rising up more so and more so because of that cul-de-sac
Yep.
that you have them out there.
And that's, what we looked at with, when we do our design, to make sure that, water's not just damming up right here, that it actually has somewhere to go. It's gonna hit here, it's gonna go here, it's gonna be diverted here, and it's not gonna pond. And that's something that we indeed looked at. When we do our designs, that make sure we're not damming it up anywhere. This water's still gonna flow, although this is being built up, water's still gonna flow this way, then into the wetland. It's something we also looked at with this cul-de-sac as well, that it's gonna flow here and flow to the low spot down in this area.
Which again is the area right directly behind our house.
And again, I would say there's no topography here. There's no topography back there. The limit of the work was simply right there.
But it's gonna flow into the wetlands behind our house, you're saying?
Yeah, that is the intent.
So if it's already high to start with, and then it flows and it's just gonna make that wetlands behind our house that much
So what-
harder to deal with.
So what we're tasked with, essentially, these are our two design points that we say, the wetlands to the north, wetlands to the south. We have to prove that, I think it's stormwater standard number 2, either 2 or 3, that we have to provide mitigation to show that, okay, in existing conditions, X amount of runoff goes here, X amount of runoff goes here. Based on our design, the way we have it graded out, we have to show that equal to or less amount of stormwater runoff flows to these design points, and that's what our stormwater report indeed shows, the way it's designed. If, say, for example, I had a high point here and I just had an outlet pipe here and it was gonna flow here, that would provide this much more stormwater runoff to that point, which would probably be something that was bad. So that's why we need to contain all the stormwater runoff here, have it infiltrate, recharge, and then essentially discharge here. And that's what our stormwater this report essentially shows, that less runoff indeed actually runs to these two wetlands here. That's fine.
Actually, I mean, now that the residents have brought that up and you mentioned it, why isn't there topography? I mean, normally you show topography on the entire site to begin with. In this case, it would be nice too to get topography that extends onto the neighbor's property by 50 feet or so we can see exactly, because right now you can't, I would tend to say, yeah, everything's gonna go north to south eventually, but there's nothing on these plans that, that you can show any of the neighbors that, it's more of like your word that, hey, this is all gonna drain this way, but, there's nothing here on the plans that shows it. I don't know why your limit, your scope of work didn't include more topography or any topography in that area.
Yeah, I can tell you, I mean, this was certainly wet. I know when we went out there, I'll tell you that.
It's wet right now. You can come to my house.
I bet it is.
It's wet in about 3 hours.
No, it's gonna be a pool in 3 hours.
So Christine Gorman, I live at 32 Harvestwood Drive. Yep, you know exactly who I am. So a couple of questions.
Yep.
One, was the stormwater report redone for the new configuration?
Yep.
Okay, can you publish that, because that was not made available to
Yep.
any of us?
Yep, and that's kind of what we're working with as part of like this round. Yeah, so the point of tonight's meeting was to essentially show the board, and I can see you guys have like the older plan, was to essentially, that plan essentially worked, is essentially to recreate that same exact plan here. Instead of the low spot there, where stormwater is going to flow here, now it's going to flow to this low spot. It's the same size as the previous design.
Correct.
And nothing material is, and like as you were saying, providing you that stormwater report, yes. Now I should say, made public as the next round of revisions comes about, but
Yeah,
yeah.
so I assume that the soil configuration for both that new
Yep.
Infiltration area and that back lot are not exactly the same.
No, and that's one thing that we looked into. Well, if you have a better material here or there, yes, we absolutely looked into that, where the groundwater table was, and adjusted our design based on that. And obviously the big thing was I wanted to make sure that I was not, this was easier to outlet because clearly you're going to outlet here. This, luckily it worked out, where there is no outletting to, Harvestwood here. It's outletting to, the adjacent wetland is kind of more offset where there's, less of butters. So that was kind of the key thing that I wanted to look into doing that. But yes, that can be done.
However, naturally, by the topography of your plans,
Yep.
it will inlet into the brook that's there on the wetlands.
Yeah, I'm
on
guessing
our
it's
side.
all into, more than not, it might be connected. It might, I don't.
No,
think
I
it's
mean
the
on the
same.
Harvestwood side.
On this side here?
Yeah, because you have the topography of that new infiltration field
Yep,
slopes down.
yes.
So by the very nature of the way water runs, it will run down towards the wetlands.
So the way this, I think it's kind of like a big depression here. Like this is the low spot, and then it raises up to a berm here, and then like essentially what you have is something in that wheelhouse. Any water when it hits here is going to flow this way. Any water from here is going to go this way.
Correct.
And again, as kind of what I was saying before, the way we design it, to make sure that your pre and post numbers match. And that's kind of the big key player, and that's also what we looked at to make sure, okay, well, we flip-flop these, make sure it doesn't change materialistically, that more runoff is running to this design point, or pretty much that we conform with, I believe, standard number 3, which is to show that our numbers running to this wetland and this wetland are less than the existing conditions.
But that berm doesn't currently exist, does it?
No.
So you're going to build that berm, so naturally the water is going to flow back
Yes.
into the wetland behind our house.
Correct.
Yep.
Which will raise it that
But
much greater.
according to the water regulations that are controlled by conservation, he's not gonna be able to do that. Conservation has not taken a deep enough look into where the water north is going. And you need to jump on top of them, because they took that away from us about 3 years ago.
Oh, I do.
Our
Don't
basic
you worry.
control is how the water on the impervious, where it is on the surface and where it goes from the surface. Anything on the lots and anything like that is controlled by conservation. So you need to get on their case, because we used to have a say into it. I mean, we can make recommendations, but they are the ones that have they can say yes or no. But you're not supposed to control water. You're not supposed to create any more hazard on the butter's property. Is the simple solution. So he's got to make that water that's coming from your directions go south.
Chris, on that infiltration basin
Yep.
we're talking about, you've got an outlet structure, and you say outlet control structure, see detail, and you don't have an invert elevation on it. What is it, where is the detail and what is the elevation?
Let's see. That should be on, CLB. Should that be revised? Should have revised that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep, so C800.
Okay. And which one is it?
Should be down to the right. Should be, so there's an orifice elevation at elevation 65.
I can't, Chris, if you can stand to one side, when
Yeah.
you're pointing to it, and all I can see is your back.
Yeah. Right there.
Is that one?
Elevation 65, yeah. And the front view of it is to the left.
So the invert is 64?
Yep, so the outlet back is.
Delta type. So if that's 64 and the overflow is at 66, before that infiltration basin fills up and tops it and goes over towards Harvestwood, will it start coming across and going to the southerly side?
We talked about, yeah, so this is the primary outlet. This is just an emergency overflow. The way this is modeled in a HydroCAD model, like this is the primary outlet with the outlet at elevation 64. I think the peak elevation in the 100-year storm was 65.9, I believe. So it never in the 100-year storm gets to actual elevation 66. The emergency spillway was put there in case, you know, if there's a failure at the outlet control structure. That would have somewhere to go. And there is no opportunity for it to go into or towards the roadway, because the roadway is built up in that area. That's why I have the emergency spillway on the opposite side.
So you have, going into the structure, it'd be at elevation 65, right?
Yeah, that's where water starts entering in,
Yep.
and then on the back side, it's actually exiting the structure at elevation 64.
And when you're modeling it, you've demonstrated that this is all in there, because I know it's about that thick, I haven't looked through the.
Yeah.
It is all
Yep.
modeled in there. Okay. There was some concern in some engineering about the retaining wall that'll be at the end of the cul-de-sac on lot 2.
Yeah, we're working with the structural engineer for that design.
Okay, so that's still in
Yep.
progress.
Yep.
And as we were talking earlier about the guardrails, that'll be,
Yep.
have to be incorporated. Yes, ma'am.
So in relation to the guardrail on the retaining wall, I assume because they're asking you to move the guardrails back off of the retaining wall, you're gonna need to shift the surface because it's right up against the 50-foot buffer.
We talk about, oh, this
Yeah.
one?
Yeah, you're not gonna have the clearance in order to meet the request of the guardrails.
I believe that, from what I recall, is, the guardrail wanted to be at the back end of the sidewalk here. There was no sidewalk here, so that guardrail could be, there's at least 8 feet. You have room for here to be placing it in front of the retaining wall. So there's no sidewalk on here. It's gonna end at this person's driveway. So yeah, you shouldn't have room along here, so you shouldn't have to shift anything.
Where are they supposed to put the snow?
Good question.
Because that immediately drops off.
That's right.
So are you putting the snow into the wetlands with the salt, the sand, all of that is now gonna go into the wetlands and my backyard?
They're not supposed to plow the snow onto private property. You have the pavement and you have a sidewalk area on either side. They're supposed to move the snow into that area. So as they go by, they put the snow on your front lawn as they go by, but it really isn't yours, it's there. It's the town's property, there's room for it. They should not be coming down and pushing it all in one place. It should be, as they go by, evenly distributed.
But it's a private road, right? So the town won't be doing it. It will be
Well,
someone privately doing it.
Yeah, but they shouldn't do it, even though it's a private road, they should not be, you'll be going onto the sidewalk, that strip between the pavement and the property line. That's where the snow will be stored.
But he's saying there's no sidewalk
No, not a,
to
Yeah.
store it.
It's a strip of land, even,
Should be
the
roughly 6,
pavement is
8
not
feet.
your property line. And it's that strip of land in between, that's where they plow the snow. And yeah, some of it does come over onto the private property, but for the, that's where it'll be going.
So they're gonna move it around the cul-de-sac, is that what
No,
you're saying?
all they're gonna do is they come down with their plow, they're gonna move it to one side. They're not gonna push it, you're gonna move it to one side. You're correct.
So it's going to run off over
As
the
somebody who does
retaining
plow,
wall.
when you make that cul-de-sac circle, you're gonna be pushing it off the,
Over
off the edge.
the retaining wall,
Right.
which then in turn pushes off the snow and the salt or any treatment.
Well, actually, there's no sidewalk there, so they got, let's see,
6 feet.
I believe 8 feet from the back of curb to the wall.
8 feet. Or what is that from the edge of the street? What do you get for pavement? 7.5 feet. So they got 7.5 feet to push it. And the wall will be near the property line, so between the curbing, or the edge of pavement and the wall, they have, because the wall, they'll be a little less than 7.5 feet, but they'll have 6 feet or so to push. That's why they push it in as a big height. They compress the snow as they push it, but it'll be room there. They're not going to be coming down and just dumping it off the end.
How wide is the road and how big is the cul-de-sac?
It's a 24-foot wide road.
Yeah.
Can't remember what the subdivision regulations state.
50 feet.
Is it 50 feet? The radius? No, but it conforms to the subdivision regs, I know that.
60-foot radius.
60-foot radius? Got a whole lot of snow. I mean, that's a lot of water.
And until the street is accepted, it won't be plowed by the town anyway, so
Right.
it'll be a private contractor paid for either by the developer or the homeowners association.
And who is gonna inspect if it's, plowed correctly or done
That's the
everything correctly?
DBU director.
Well, no, you mean if it's a private road?
Right.
That would be, that's one of the reasons we don't like seeing this, because if it's a homeowners association, and you're not taking care of it, all of a sudden, you got 6 houses here, 5 of them are going to call up and say that the other one isn't doing what he
Right.
should be doing. That's why, if you're going to have a house, you want to be the same as every other homeowner. You want to have all the rights of every other homeowner. That's one of the reasons we advocate accepting the roads, because then the town can take care of it, and they can make it work, and they will take care of it, as you can tell, they do a very good job in West Bridgewater. You go to some of the other towns and
No, I
you know the
agree.
difference. They do a wonderful job. Even though one of them sitting there, I'm not playing their hand, but he
You're
does
not
a
talking,
good job.
listen, you're not talking about me.
There's an exception.
There is an exception to
I
every
have a
rule.
question for you guys, though. Why wasn't Conservation invited to this meeting? I mean, you could see our concern about this and how important it is to Harvestwood.
Okay. There are different things. We have a certain amount of authority. I use the blind effect, what we look at. Basically, the planning board is to ensure that it is adequate access for vehicles and walking and utilities. That's the main thing. We used to take care of the drainage too, but when the Mass Stormwater Act came in, it changed the whole thing, and they decided the Conservation Commissions were better, so they take care of the drainage. We still look at it to make sure that it's adequate so that it isn't flooding the road.
Right.
And our review engineer does the same job. But we're asking different questions. And we are talking about conservation issues, but we have no authority over it. Just the same as the Conservation Commission has no authority over the location of the road, the width of the road, the shape of the lots. They don't have anything. So that's why we have different hearings. We will do ours, and they will do theirs. And we have a very good relationship with them. It isn't like some towns where one board has, this is my turf and this guy over here is my turf. We don't. We get along and we work to a common goal. But they address their stuff and we address theirs. This is the first public hearing. We're trying to get all the information, so we welcome the hearing about what we have. Before the meeting, I went up and had a chat with the conservation agent, just to bring me up to speed how things were going. So, but we do our thing and they do their thing. But in the end, it all comes together.
How do we get a meeting with them?
Are they before the Concom now, or?
They were, believe it was last Tuesday, but I'm not
It was
Do you know
last
sure.
when the next meeting is?
I believe July 16th or 18th, whatever Tuesday that is.
Because I'm sure, you know, I just,
You can go to the town's website,
It's got the whole calendar.
westbridgewater.org, and go to the calendar, and under the calendar, look, you can click on, and you'll see Conservation Commission. Click on it, and then it'll come up with what their agenda is and when they're meeting. And that's to go. I mean, people should have got a butters lit notification on them.
No.
Well,
And the agenda is put out 48 hours, 2 days beforehand. So it probably is put in on the Friday, just so that they made it. But you can drop a dime, and there's somebody here that will tell you what it is. We have a full-time agent, and he call him up, and you can find out what the status of it is, whether it's going to be that night or what. Even before, you don't have to wait till the 48 hours before. You can call him.
And he will usually come out to your house. He's pretty good with, if you've got a question you want to show him, that, you can set an appointment up and because he lives in town. And he's point things up to him before a meeting, so it can be done. But they've got the power on the outside drainage coming from your direction and where the water's going, not us.
Is that Tim Hay?
Yes.
Okay, okay.
And the Conservation Commission also hosts Zoom meetings, So they're about the only committee that's still
Left.
remaining that does Zoom meetings, because I attended last week via Zoom.
Yeah.
I have to.
Yes, ma'am.
And it's really more for you.
Yep.
Mr. Stetson brought up the fencing
Yep.
for the abutters. The Conservation Commission had also asked you last week to
Yep.
put in a permanent structure. When will we receive those
And so
revised
that,
plans?
in kind of tandem with your point, that was at the 50-foot. Typically, I think the regulations require like stone monumentation. They wanted something more permanent, but at the 50-foot buffer. He was saying like more probably along the property line, and that's where like the difference was coming in. So they were, conservation was talking about like more like a split rail fence to delineate these homeowners potentially from them not going back and performing any more work here. What he was
Correct.
saying was, yeah, more of a permanent type
Yes.
fence along the property line, and that's where, that's, hey, now you're working within the 100-foot buffer, and that's kind of coordinating something with them if they want like a, a vinyl fence put along here, kind of, like here, you're within the wetland at that point, so I think that was the issue there.
So are you bringing that to conservation, because they've already requested a fence?
Yeah,
plan?
that's something, that, based on what they said last time, providing, I believe, like I said, the regulation was to provide permanent monumentations after 50 foot. If they still require something more permanent, then we will show that on the plan as such.
Are you bringing Mr. Stetson's concerns to them, or
We
shall
are
I?
going to be sending a letter
Okay,
to
perfect.
our review
Okay.
engineer, and it'll be CC'd to them,
Okay, perfect.
so that they will have it at their next meeting.
Yes, Mr. Anderson.
Robert Anderson, 51 Commonwealth Ave. Could you refresh my memory as to what two lots flipped?
So it would be, so these two areas here essentially.
Okay, so which was a house lot and,
House lot, basin area.
okay.
Although, to be fair, the lot lines have changed between this plan and the previous plan.
Okay.
They are not at the same location, it wasn't a direct flip-flop.
No, on paper, lot lines changed. Physical house location, that didn't change. This was just, lot lines were to get the adequate frontage and adequate area. That's all that was. Other than that, there was a house, I believe, here, and the basement was in that vicinity.
Well, based on the comments from the planning board, I guess my concerns are more appropriately addressed at the Conservation Committee, because it's about water runoff, okay? But I will tell you this, your plans show a lot of water going from north to south, okay? I'm one of those lesser butters on Commonwealth Ave,
Yeah.
as you referred to us, the lesser butters. The swamp is already flooded. And my concern is more water going down in there. It used to be a vegetated area, now it's just a bunch of standing dead trees. So my concern is water runoff and water table. So, and I'll address that with the Conservation Committee, because I know you people have no authority. But just to ease everybody else's concerns, you guys do work very well together, the planning board and the conservation. They take into consideration each other's recommendations, so what is said here and what is said at the Conservation Committee all comes together at one point in time, So, but there's a whole lot of pavement going on up there that's gonna push the water towards the swamp, which is gonna push it towards my basement. So that's my biggest concern.
You need a bigger basement?
Well, maybe I'll get one after the house fire. Maybe I can work that in somehow.
That was your house?
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
No wonder Bruce rolled over this grave.
Yeah. so. But anyhow, my concern is, you got a lot of pavement going in up there, a lot of, as you refer to what is impervious?
Impervious surfaces,
Yeah,
yes.
so she's a lot smarter than me. But anyhow.
I deal in construction.
Yeah. So, the water's gotta go somewhere,
Right.
so. I will-
That's why we have the review engineer and.
Right.
And he.
What is,
he-
what's that study that they do? It's got a letter and a number or something, E6 or, do you know any? The what? For the water runoff, it's the plan that'll be reviewed by the engineer. Tim Hay mentioned it one time. It's got a name.
Yeah, Pat Brennan?
No, I'm talking about the actual plan, like an E6 plan or whatever.
Oh.
What-
The The way they calculated the drainage, they used to have a number, but that, I can't remember that one either, they don't use it anymore.
Yeah.
Because they used to do a very simple.
You said it
drainage.
earlier.
They used to
Said
do a
mass
very,
water, something number.
no,
That's different than what Tim Hay was referencing.
but it's a very complicated, when computers came along, they came up with something that you really needed a computer to do. Before it was pretty much simple mathematics. Then this stuff is calculus and the whole thing,
Oh, yeah.
and they punch everything in, pushing all the buttons and the stuff. Now we're all kinds of answers.
Hydraulic routing,
Yeah,
this, that, and everything
that
else.
stuff you never could do by hand. Is there,
So if it was not water runoff, does the board recall why we went from 6 down to 3 and that was approved, and now we're back up to 5? And are any of those items that made us go from 6 to 3 important? I don't recall what they were, but
All three.
you mean the number of lots?
in number of lots, yes. But like our esteemed selectman said at the Conservation Commission, the plan looks kind of like 10 pounds of you-know-what being shoved in a 5-pound bag. And was that a concern of the planning boards years ago to make it 6 down to 3?
I don't think it was ever 3.
Yeah, it was.
Yes, it was.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I got it right here.
3 was approved.
correct. Tim Hay can happily provide.
There it is right there.
Yeah,
So why
This,
would we go-
this is what was approved.
Yeah.
right.
And-
So are any of those concerns relevant?
What was the concern from 6 to 3?
It was,
I believe conservation also approved 6. There was an order of conditions that was issued.
yeah, but this is what was approved.
Oh, yeah.
You know, here's the signatures right on it. This was done in 2018, 6 years ago.
That's
But this never went forth.
That's the 3-lot, that's the 3-lot plan?
That's the 3-lot subdivision that was.
And that was approved by both the planning and the conservation?
Yes, I believe they did approve it also.
That's my
But
understanding.
we did, the plans that were in at that time, we weren't comfortable with, and it came down to this. Different engineers have worked on it, and this is what this particular engineer, and after what we expressed our concerns, this is what he came up with, and we approved it. It was never, basically, it was never accepted.
Was there a community septic on that? Was there a community septic?
I don't believe so.
Or was that individual?
This
I
would
think it
have,
was.
Yeah,
still
the
community
septic was in the same spot.
yeah, that's right, okay, yeah.
I don't know why we went down to 3 or.
It was something that couldn't work.
I heard it was the applicant's thing. That was my,
I was
why
gonna say-
reinvent the wheel? Why would I propose 5 or 6 when you guys didn't
I
approve
mean,
it?
it
So
may be marketability of those lots.
I heard there was a retaining wall that was needed.
Honest, those
Yeah,
lots
there
are.
was, yes, there was a wall, and I think it was some, but we finally got it.
And I tried reading back through some minutes too, to like make sure like, I kind of got all my T's, so to speak, so.
Even at this, we had a wall.
I think there was actually work within 50 foot on that as well.
At the time, was the 50-foot buffer as disturbed as it is now?
As it is disturbed, I'm gonna say no, but I can't tell you.
When we're talking about the retaining wall, my understanding through the comments of the Conservation Committee was the retaining wall had been, eliminated.
Yeah.
And there was a grading system that was gonna take place instead of a retaining wall.
Yeah.
Are we now talking about 2 different retaining
There
walls?
was, on that, on the 6th lot, that was way back when, there was 2 walls. One, that's still in play there, but there was a wall, essentially the roadway that went right through here with the, I
Right.
believe it's about like 9-foot high wall here.
Okay.
That was essentially eliminated.
Right, okay. Just wanted to make sure that I had the right wall.
And can I ask a question? So when it was 6 lots subdivision,
Yep.
was, I remember you saying that the wetlands, have they grown?
Yep, so
behind-
that was,
Okay, so was it smaller when it was 6 lots and now it's grown? and-
Yes.
Yeah, it has.
yep, so that's essentially this lot right here.
In this area,
Yellow finger.
it,
right here.
it,
Essentially, it's gonna look like
you
this.
probably can't see it, but the wetland was just a little finger-like thing coming up in this area. Now where it is, this number here, wetland flag 4, is also shown on here. 3 and 4, which are these two here, are shown, but then it cuts way over here like this now.
And what causes that to grow? Like, will it get bigger?
It's called
That's what-
beaver.
Oh,
The beavers behind Bobby's house have plugged up the swamp.
So, to be
But-
fair,
but-
the wetlands grew on the Harvestwood side as well.
Yeah, it's.
Because we had it
it's created
delineated.
back, everything backing up
Yeah.
from going under the road on North Main Street.
Yep.
So an influx of water can always fluctuate the wetlands, which is why they do the 50-foot buffer in hopes that it won't happen. It does, because we built our house on wetland previously. It does happen.
Back to the 3-lot subdivision. That refreshed my memory. I don't think it was us. I think it was a matter of cost feasibility for the developer at the time. Because it was, I think that's, when it extended out this far with a retaining wall here, somebody decided, yeah, it wasn't going to be, it was cost prohibitive, and they went to the 3 lots. So I don't think it was anything we decided.
Yeah, I can't remember.
When was that signed, did you say?
6 years ago.
And that was exactly what I designed methodology. I didn't want to show something that
Wasn't
was
in
not
July and
approved.
August, was it?
December. It was a Christmas present we wanted to get rid of it for Christmas. so.
And also, the new water regulations weren't effective in 2018. They only came in, 4 years ago, 3 years ago? So they wouldn't have been affected. Things were looked at different. I mean, we looked at the whole site, and now we only look at the roadway.
That thing you looking at stormwater as well. Now it's conservation stream.
What are you doing in the area where there's supposed to be erosion blankets?
It's here. What are we doing? This is just grading. That's all that is. Yeah, this
So
is
it's a
just.
hope and a prayer that the road never erodes?
No, that again, that's something, if so be the board wants to see that, hey, make sure that the road doesn't erode, that we have structural engineer in-house that could run a profile and make sure that, okay, it doesn't wash out.
Yeah, because you're saying all the water is pushing to that area right where the roadway is going to be right off of, where it could potentially erode because all you're putting in place is grading. Unintended consequences.
That's one of the things that the engineer is concerned.
Okay, I'm just bringing up concerns
Yeah,
because
no,
that's.
it's well taken. That's why we have him do it, because he's got an expert eye to look at it. We know pretty much what's going on, but it's worthwhile to get another expert to look at it. And he sharpens his pencil and he does a number to become fair. Does a good job.
And when do you expect to have the wetland restoration report?
We are working on that. Obviously, conservation won't approve any plan until, we get that before them and they take a look at it. So, we're working on that as well. Things that, our office doesn't do, being that one of them, also with the structural design of the wall. So, yeah, we are working on a restoration mitigation plan for the 50-foot buffer on that. That I can't give you the timeline on, but we are working on that.
Okay. How long, what is your time frame for getting the changes made and getting something back from Mr. Brown?
Probably the next, Wednesday, I guess, the next meeting. 'Cause the anticipation was, this kind of layout change. We got the peer review comments back, took a look at those, and the point of this meeting was to say, yep, we've looked at them, we're going to be addressing them, and just getting feedback from butters and the board themselves, and then get a revised set of plans, put all the applicable documents back to you for the next meeting.
So,
We don't meet again till the 17th,
so you're meeting
and we're busy.
the 16th with Concom? you
Yeah,
said?
that's my accomplishment.
What else we got on the
I think the 17th, don't we have a lot, Donna?
We're due on August 7th. I don't know that we've got much.
This is
But I
July,
know-
this is July,
Oh.
July 17th.
Okay. Henry Street, I believe will be that.
Okay.
I have to look up the,
Manley Street's the 7th of August.
The 7th, okay, so maybe the
Right.
17th is open
yeah.
Yeah, but if they're only meeting with conservation the 16th, a lot of our questions fringe on
then.
what conservation.
Yeah, the drainage has to be settled.
Yeah, they, I believe they pushed it up for, you guys are the same person, so I mean, I'll reach out to Tim to see if they have any comments on their side. Because, they also pushed, their, I guess, review off to the same engineer, peer review engineer. We haven't got any comments back yet from them.
I'm just, we're just trying to come up with,
Yep.
we're going to have to continue the public hearing
Yep.
so that everybody here knows, because there will not be another public notice in the newspaper, so we want to make sure everybody knows when you leave. Can you have it by then, or, and we have 5 Wednesdays, so that the August the 7th, we know we're getting busy. So do you think you can get your
By August 7th or the July 17th?
by the 17th, because August the 7th, that'd be our next meeting after the 17th. So, well, that's another public hearing, but those aren't that complicated. We could do both, but
Yeah, anticipating July 17th.
you want to go
Yeah.
do 17th?
Yeah.
Okay. So this meeting will be continued to July 17th, and we'll be meeting at 7:30. This was an off night, we could meet earlier because it's another board that meets before us. So, the meeting will be, the public hearing will be continued to July 17th at 7:30. Thank you everybody for coming in. Excuse me, this is video. You can catch it on the town's cable network, or you can get it on YouTube also if you want to refresh it and go back. And in fact, the other meetings are too, so if you have any questions. If you don't catch them on the cable, you can go to YouTube.
One other point, we had other comments from other agencies. I didn't know if Chris had a copy of those yet, or if you wanted to read
I
those.
just want to ask your friend.
Yeah. Thank you. Oh, wait a minute, okay. Hang on for a minute. Okay, we have a letter from the fire chief. I calculate the roadway to be about 800 feet long with the proposed hydrant on the map. If this is the case, I would like this hydrant to place halfway down the roadway or around 400 feet down from Spring Street. If a second hydrant could be placed at the end of the water line, that would be even better. That way there would be one near the start of the roadway and one at the end of the roadway. So pretty much what we said.
Can you get a copy of that as well?
Yeah, in fact, John will email to him.
Yeah.
To him. I quickly looking through here, I didn't find it, but our planner itinerary, although she uses very small type, so she's really strict.
Terrible.
But that being said, I'll manage. I'm not complaining, believe me. Okay, we also have one from the Assistant DPW Director. After reviewing the plans for 109 Spring Street, I only have one concern, that the drainage and displacement of water into an area that has already been having flooding issues. There would be no issues with the snow removal from the street or sidewalk. Drainage into an area that has already been flooded. So he is concerned with the flooding, and we all have. But then he goes on to say there will be no issues with the snow removal from the street or sidewalks, which that's one of the reasons our width of roadway is wider than our pavement. So that's one of the reasons built into it. And okay, there's another one here from water. Okay, this is from the Superintendent, Mr. Parks. I know the planning board does a very good job of looking out for the town's water supply. Eventually, they will have to come before the water commissioners and let them know what they have planned. So, which is a good idea to go up to make sure you pretty much you've got what they like to see it on the sidewalk. Just to go up and talk to him. He's up. Okay. And there's a tax delinquent report which I can't read, but that's going to have to be satisfied before we can sign the plans. So one of the town regulations is nothing gets approved if it's approved by taxes. So that will have to be planned. That's small print. I can't read the numbers on it. Sorry.
Is that all something I can get forwarded to?
Yeah, we'll. I saw it a month or two ago. I saw it with types that I could read even, but it isn't, I can't read it there. So, with that being said, we'll close this, or continue this public hearing to next month. And thank you everyone for coming in and.
Invoice you.
Oh, yes, that's why I asked you to remind me.
That's just the, that we did here. We just did that, so that's all you owe us.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, that ends the public session of our meeting.